Hi guys, so welcome back to the next video in our tutorial on Azure Service Fabric. In this video, we're going to look at how we can change the replication factor for our partitions of our service. So in the last video, we changed partition values and see how that affected how our service and how our replicas are distributed throughout our cluster. In this video, we're just going to look at changing the number of replicas per partition. And we're also going to look at how we can partition on a name rather than on a number like we saw in the previous video. So in the Service Fabric Explorer again, we can see that we have our service that's partitioned 3 times, and each partition has its 3 replicas, 1 primary and 2 active secondaries. So let's go back to Visual Studio and we'll see how we can change the replica value for our cluster. So let's stop running the cluster and let's go to our application manifest. And so the replication size is determined by this min replica set size. So in order to increase the number or decrease the number of replicas, we should change the value here or here, but specifically per environment, we should be changing the value in our application parameters. Only if the value is not defined in our application parameters files will this default value be used. And in most situations, it's kind of unwise to go under the default value of 3 for the min replica set size, as this ensures your high availability. But it is possible to do this. 3 is the recommended value, but for extra reliability, we can actually increase this value higher. So let's try that for our local 5-node cluster. So let's go to a min replica set size of 5. And also that means we have to change our target replica set size to 5, as the target replica set size should never be below the min replica set size. So let's try deploy our Service Fabric application again. So our application is now deployed and we can see the Jump Store application. And we have our product catalog. I just realized I called it Jump Store when I was meant to call it Jump Start Store, but not to mind, it's just the name of the application. We didn't change the partition count for our service, so we still have our 3 partitions. But each one of these partitions now should have 5 replicas. So as expected, we have a single primary because we can never have more than 1 primary per partition, and 4 secondaries to make up the 5 required min replica count. And the other partitions we should see the exact same. Again, we can see that Service Fabric has spread them out on all the available nodes. So no 2 replicas for a single partition are on the same node. And we also see that Service Fabric has spread out the primaries. So no 2 primaries are on the same node if possible, although this is not required. So that's basically it from changing the replica point of view. You might want to do this if you really want to achieve very high reliability, but in most cases a replication count of 3 is probably sufficient. We'll just have a quick look at named partitions before we wrap up this quick video. So if we go back to Visual Studio, we can stop our application. And to use a named partition, so this is a partition that's partitioned on a kind of a string value rather than a numeric value, we need to define this in our application manifest. And we do this in our service section here. So for our stateful service, instead of having a uniform int64 partition, we need to have a named partition. So we can simply delete this section here and replace it with a new section called named partition. And inside that named partition, we defined how many partition we want and what these partitions should be called. So we simply can say partition, give it a name, say we call it USA. We'll have another partition. And this partition is for the EU. And the final partition we'll call Japan. So we'll have a 3-partition service. And we can still leave these values here. They're not actually used anywhere at the moment, but for convenience later, we might want to use them again. If the service was definitely going with named partitions, we might want to delete these values here to avoid confusion. Although we still need the target and min replica set size. So really the only ones you'll be deleting would be the ones related to partition count. So partition count and partition low and high key. So let's deploy this and see what differences we see in the Service Fabric Explorer. So if we jump back to our Service Fabric Explorer, we can see again our application and our service are there. And we can see that we have our 3 partitions. Each partition again is given a unique GUID, but it's also given a name. So we have our EU partition, our Japan partition, and our USA partition. And these partition names will be used inside our code to help route different data to the different partitions, which we will see in the upcoming videos. And again, we haven't changed our replication count, so it's still 5. So the EU, the Japan, and the USA partitions all have 5 replicas. So thanks for watching the video, guys. Hopefully that has explained how partitioning and replication works in Service Fabric. If not, in the next couple of videos, we'll be looking at some code examples on how services can communicate to different partitions and how we can use state in a stateful service and how this state is unique per partition. So the combination of this more theoretical video and the upcoming code videos hopefully will give you a good understanding of how stateful services work in general. So if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more Service Fabric videos. Thanks for watching, guys.